Hi everybody, my name is Sarah. Thanks for joining our new group. I'm going to try and do a little bit of a overview of Design Space for you guys. I know a lot of you are like brand spanking new beginners, so if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. I know it's a little overwhelming at first getting the hang of this because there's a lot of different facets to it, but I'm hoping that I can answer anything that you need to learn to get comfortable using your Cricut. First thing I'm going to show you is basically just the layout of a canvas for starting any projects that you're going to do. So once you have the Design Space open, if you haven't already logged in, go ahead and do that. You'll need to put in your information to get into the software, but then, if you have it saved in your computer, it's easy enough to access every time. You don't have to put it in every time you want to log in. So, all right, so let's go to a new canvas. What I'm going to do is click here, this plus sign where it says new project. And once that opens, you'll see right now I have this in imperial measurements, which means, inches rather than centimeters. If you want to change that, you can. You just click on this little 3-bar thing at the upper left of your screen. And once that opens, you go down here to settings. And then right here it says units. You can just click metric if you'd rather have it in centimeters. In the States here, we usually use inches, so I'm going to stick with that for now. You can also, in your settings here, if you want to change, if you speak Spanish as your first language, you can change it here, or, any other language. You can also change your grid if you would prefer it to be partial grid. I find it easiest to stick with the full grid because it's easier to move things around and put them exactly where you want them. But again, you can change it to partial grid or no grid so that it will be blank on your canvas so you don't have the lines. You can also change down here the way it'll save your projects. I prefer to save mine both to the cloud and the computer. I've had issues saving just to the cloud sometimes where, Cricut would accidentally lose my project, and it's very frustrating when that happens, especially if it's something that you've worked really hard on and you have it just the way you want it. So I always save in the cloud and the computer. That way I have kind of a backup for it if I need to. But if you save it in the cloud, either way, either one of these options, if you put it in the cloud, that means you can basically open it on any computer that you log into Design Space or any mobile device, like if you're using an iPhone or an iPad or a tablet to use Design Space. You can access it through the cloud, so you'll have that saved project on any of your devices. All right, so I have it on inches. I'm going to go back to the canvas here. All right, so the easiest thing I tell people to start with is cardstock projects, just because you're not wasting vinyl then. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload one of those cool paper flowers that people have been putting in shadow boxes. What I would recommend you do is just practice with a couple things like that, just to learn how your machine will cut things. And you can learn different settings and stuff that way. So what I'm going to do is go ahead, click here where it says images. Now this is where you can search if you have access to Cricut Design Space special extra monthly thing. I think it's $9.99 a month. They give you a bunch of different images that you can use for free. They also have ones here that even if you do pay the subscription monthly, you still have to pay extra for the images. So just be careful when you're picking your images that it's included. So what I'm going to type in here is 3D flowers. Whoops, flowers. There we go. And then when you open this up, it'll show a whole bunch of different 3D projects. But what I'm looking for is just those cool quilled flowers that people have been doing. And I actually started doing some of them myself for my niece's room. She just moved into a new house, so I'm going to do a shadow box for her. So what you do is you just click on the one that you like, and then here where it says subscribe, that basically means it's included in that $9.99 monthly fee. If it says free, anybody can access it, but there are ones, again, let me see if I can find, it'll say at the bottom, if it is an extra cost, it'll say where you'd see subscribed, it'll say $1.99 or whatever the cost is for that particular image. All right, well, these all seem to be included in the subscription, so I'm just going to ignore that for now. So once you pick the one you want, it'll be down here. I'm going to click Insert Images to transfer it over to my canvas. If for some reason I don't want that image, I picked the wrong one, or if I change my mind, I can click over it where it'll show up a red X. That'll take the image away. It won't transfer it to your canvas. Okay, so we're going to insert, and then when it shows up, it'll come out as this weird looking spiral thing, because what people do with these flowers, you have to quill them. So basically you're starting at the edge here, and then you're twirling it around a quilling tool to make it into that spirally flower shape. This one has different petals that you can attach to make it even more, you know, 3D and realistic looking. There's actually ones that are a little more simple to use. Let me see if I can find. I actually have a cheat sheet with all the different flower codes on it. So I am going to go ahead and upload that in the comments after I post this video. But I'm going to delete that one and find one that's a little simpler. So if you know your codes, which, like I said, it'll be in the comments, all you have to do is type in the code with that little hashtag in front of it, and that will bring it up for you. D7E1, okay. And then search. Yep, that's the one. This is the most common one I think people are using. So we're going to insert that. Now, these particular flowers come out really small if you make them the way they just come up. So to resize it, you can either do two things. You can drag this, and it'll tell you the X and Y axis for the size, or you can go up here where it's the size, and you can type in manually how big you want it. So an 8-inch flower, I think, tends to come out to be about 2.5 inches in diameter when you twirl it, when you quill it. So I'm going to do one that's 8 inches. Now here in design space, you have a whole bunch of different tools. I'm going to focus on stuff not pertaining to fonts in this video. I will do a font video for you guys with, you know, how to attach different script fonts and things like that. But this basically, I just wanted to do a simple project just for learning to cut with your machine. So what I'm going to do is say I want a bunch of different flowers, and I want them to be all different colors. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this once I have it the size I want it, right click actually, and then click duplicate. It doesn't matter if they're overlapping, because when you go to click make it, it'll actually spread them out on your mats the way it'll cut. So if they're overlapping here, it doesn't matter. I'm going to change color right here, right next to where it says cut. I'm going to change that color. I'll just do that. Okay, and then you can make as many as you want. Like I said, doesn't matter if they're overlapping. And then you can resize, change whatever you want on this canvas. I would suggest, what was I going to say here? Well, anyway, let's just for the sake of showing you guys, I have this little bar in the way here, but over on this side, it's got your layers. So basically it shows what different pieces it's cutting, or drawing if you're using that feature. I'm not going to do that in this video either though, because that's a little more complicated. So what I'm going to do here, once I have it the size that I want, the color that I want, I can just go ahead and click make it, and it'll show up. I'll show you how it'll show up on an actual picture of a mat, so you know where it's going to cut. I forgot to show you too, this is obviously an undo button. So if you do something that you don't like, you can change it back. You can go back multiple steps if you want to change multiple things. The best time I find to have this undo button is when you're welding or slicing bigger images, which again I'll get to in a different video. But when you're doing that, you definitely want to be able to go back, because you can't unweld something. Once you've welded it, you can only undo it, and it only can happen right after you do it. So, but again, I'll cover that in a different video. So right now I have my things ready to cut. So what I'm going to do is click make it right here in the upper right where it's green. Okay, and now it'll sort these for you on the mat by color. Okay, so say you have like letter-sized cardstock. I don't own 12 by 12 cardstock. I bought a bunch of stuff from Amazon and it's all the 8.5 by 11. So what I'm going to do is click that and then it'll show you your page here. That's what your paper size is. And then you're gonna see where it's gonna actually cut the image that you chose on your canvas. And it'll do it in steps. So it'll cut your first color, second color, third color. It's pretty user-friendly in that it'll tell you, which one it's doing next. But I would suggest that changing the size for all of them in the beginning is the smartest thing to do, because sometimes you forget, and then you don't want this becomes more of an issue when you're cutting a couple things on a canvas. So say I was cutting this and a smaller flower, it might put the smaller flower here to cut it thinking you have 12 by 12 cardstock, but I don't. So I have 8.5 by 11, so I'm going to change this on all of them in the beginning so I don't forget that. And then it'll move the flower either down here or onto a separate page if it doesn't fit, because it knows I have smaller paper or cardstock. So, all right, and then up here you can also change the amount of the items you want to cut per color. So the first one here, say I wanted 2 of everything, so I would change that to 2, and that'll change the quantity for all of them. Okay, if you want to do just multiple of one color and not the others, then I would just add that on your canvas. So you say go back and then say I want 2 of the blue but only 1 of the other 2. So there we go. And then click make it, and then it'll do it for you. Okay, but again, make sure this is the right size for your paper, or your cardstock rather. All right, and then what you're gonna do is get your mat ready. So with cardstock, you're using a blue mat. That's the light grip. If you use the heavier grip stuff, your cardstock's going to stick to it, going to be hard to get off of it, and you're going to potentially rip it or crease it or fold it, and you don't want to do that. So the light grip mat for cardstock, and then you're going to click continue when your cardstock is on your mat. Now obviously you're going to line up your cardstock on your mat with the grid here. It won't cut right up to the line. It always leaves, I want to say, like, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch where it won't cut. So it'll show you on here exactly where it will. All right, and then I'm going to hit continue. It's going to say no device found because I don't have my Cricut plugged in. So I will see it here when it's finding that. I don't have it turned on or connected to my computer because it's something I have to wheel out every time I want to use it. I don't have a craft space of my own. So, but up here it'll say your machine when it has it found. And then basically here it'll show what settings that you have for what project, your material you're working on. So if you're using cardstock, you can turn that dial on your machine to cardstock. If you put it 1 before the regular cardstock, it's like light cardstock. If you put it 1 after cardstock on that dial, it's cardstock plus, which would be the really heavier cardstock. That just increases your pressure or decreases your pressure if you're using one that's a little thinner, a little thicker. You can also, in the settings, which again, I'll show you this again in a different video when I have it hooked up here, but you're going to have a custom setting on that dial where you can choose cardstock for intricate cuts. So these aren't too intricate. These are pretty easy things for the Cricut to cut. There's nothing real tiny that it's removing. But if you do have something that's cutting really intricate, like I know a lot of those mandalas that people are doing right now are definitely a little more intricate. So you can definitely change that to cardstock for intricate cuts in those custom settings. And then once you have it set to the correct setting for the material you're working with, you can go ahead and load your mat. Now loading your mat, you want to make sure that you have it pushed all the way up to those little rollers on the guide bar. And then once you have it pushed up to that, you can push the little button on your Cricut with the arrows. Now that'll feed the mat in just to get it started. And then the Cricut will move the mat as it goes for cutting. You don't have to touch it once it's loaded. Okay, so I want to show you more things on the screen here. So I'm going to stop this video and I'm going to hook up my Cricut so that I can actually show you detailed here what is going on. Okay.